Yeah. And when you're talking about, right, harder to sell, you're talking in more traditional manners or out there in the public based on,
Yeah.
95% of the US population's perception in its acquisition. You're thinking more acquisition for assets that add to your portfolio as opposed to assets necessarily from I'm an acquisition person, I'm acquiring it because I can and I'm doing dispo. You're thinking more put it in your portfolio. This time and what we're coming into over the next 18,
This is buy and
24
hold.
months is,
We're coming
yeah.
into buy and hold time. And more than
Okay.
anything else, and this is one of the things that people don't understand. Okay. Like, when does the market as a whole actually start to come down price wise? That happens usually when the foreclosures are flooding the market, because the banks don't care about top dollar. They care about liquidating. That's what they care about.
Right.
The reality of the matter is they don't want to own it because they have no connections. They're not actually in the business of real estate. They're in the business of financing real estate. So when they need something repaired, they're paying top dollar. Anything that they need done, any third party vendor that they have to hire for any given reason, they're hiring them. And because of their CYA mentality, basically, where they don't want to constantly be in a position of risk, they just hire people, top of the line, straight out of Yellow Pages. We're calling a contractor. They've got to be licensed, got to be insured. There's no such thing as like a handyman that's working on bank owned properties. You know what I mean? It just doesn't work
Right.
that way. So
Yep.
they pay top dollar for every damn thing they do because they don't have the resources. They're simply not built that way. They're not designed for it. It stresses them out having a bunch of property on the books that they have to pay to maintain. They got to pay somebody to go cut the lawn. And these guys are paying people a couple $100s to go cut a lawn. And when I say a
Right.
lawn,
Yeah.
I'm not talking about a Kansas lawn. Okay. I'm talking
Right.
about like a Boston lawn where you have a 10 by 15 patch of grass that is your lawn. You know what I mean? And it's three
Right.
passes with a push mower and it's done. That's a couple $100,
Right.
you know? So when you think about the fact that that's how that operates, the reality of the matter is once a ton of bank owned inventory is out there, they don't even bother trying to get top dollar. They don't even try. They
Right.
literally just underprice, and keep cutting down the market. But in the meantime, what we have is this: the circumstances that a lot of people are dealing with right now, regardless of what industry they're in, recession like circumstances that a lot of people are dealing with, um, those circumstances are not improving. None of them are going to improve anytime soon. This shit is all going upward. And the reality of the matter is people get to a point where they have to choose between, okay, am I paying my abnormally high electric bill this month? Or am I getting a tank of gas so I can go to work next week?
Right.
You do get to a point where that's the case. The reality of the matter is right now, this exact moment, there is literally more consumer credit card debt in the United States than there's ever been at any point in history, at any point. Auto defaults are on the rise, big time. Car repossessions are on the rise, big time right now. People falling behind left and right. So, when you have those types of circumstances, a person, not a whole society, but a person who happens to be in a situation where they're choosing between gas and food, that person's probably going to make their decisions slightly differently than somebody who's sitting on millions and millions of dollars and is perfectly comfortable financially, right?
Right.
So
Right.
that's the reality of it. Now, most people are conditioned, the very same way most people are conditioned to be employees rather than self-employed or independent in any way, shape, or form. Most people are also conditioned to be renters. Number one reason in the 22 years I've been doing this, the number one reason that I've ever heard of anybody actually falling behind on their bills, and I'm not talking about the initial reason that they speak up. I'm talking about when we've gone through the whole thing and we look back and figure out at what point did you actually fall behind on the mortgage? What happened that eventually caused you to fall behind on the mortgage? When we look at that, we find that most frequently it's actually a major home repair, like a roof, an HVAC system, a major electrical or major plumbing repair or upgrade. Those kinds of things people are not prepared for. They're prepared to have that monthly bill every month, the mortgage, the rent, whatever the hell it is that they're paying, but they're not prepared to additionally above and beyond that be further investing capital into the property. And I find that the biggest thing that's ever actually caused people to fall behind is, the house needed a new roof. Sometimes they let it go a little too long, needing a new roof, and gets to the point where it's actually leaking. Well, now you need a new roof. You need new insulation. You need new drywall. You need probably some mold treatment or something else of that nature. And you took a molehill and transformed it into a mountain.
Right.
So that person is all I'm looking for, is the guy who's behind like that, because I can come along, and this is the most important part of all of it. Okay. He actually gets a hell of a lot more of it out of it than I do. A hell of a lot more. I get the ability to take over a property, which in all reality, most of these deals, not all of them, but most of these deals work in such a way where, you know, it's not, the one deal isn't going to change your entire life. Okay. It's good. On an average deal, I tend to make typically, most of the deals that I'm doing, I tend to make typically about what most people make for a living in a year. Okay. But there are expenses involved in doing that. There are risks involved in doing that. The homeowner, when they've fallen behind on their mortgage and I'm able to catch them up, right? First thing that happens is their credit score jumps huge as soon as they've been caught up. Their credit score goes up rapidly. Then each on-time payment thereafter improves their overall credit rating. By the time somebody that I've bought their property is subject to their debt, by the time I've owned the property for 2 years and have made 2 consecutive years of consecutive years of on-time payments, that person is back to a perfectly acceptable credit standing.
Right.
Nobody